Okay. So I'll just get started. What was your reaction after you got drafted?
I was drafted back in 2016. So my initial reaction was obviously I was ecstatic. I had all my family around me, so and some of my friends. So it was a big day. Um, it didn't go exactly as I had thought it would. I think at the time I was projected to go a lot higher than I actually did, but some things fell through and it was what it was. But all in all, it was a very exciting moment and just a very surreal moment, just because it's something you work towards your entire life, and then when it finally happens, it's an awesome moment.
How did you decide that pitching was your thing, was your position?
Um, it's it's a tough question because actually, like in high school and pretty much going into college, I was a catcher. Uh, the only I only had I think I only had two offers to college as a pitcher, uh, but I ended up choosing Northwestern State, and I signed on originally as a two-way to play as a catcher and a pitcher. And when I got there, I caught a little bit in the fall, and then they pretty much told me like, "Hey, we need pitching more than we need catching," and kind of gave me the option to decide. And then it was at that moment that I chose to be a pitcher. So I mean, I guess it worked out in the end, obviously, but it was kind of one of those things that like just I wanted to play, and I knew pitching was going to be the way that I was going to be able to play.
Was there a specific team or player you watched growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Houston, and I'm from Houston originally, so naturally, I grew up watching the Astros with my family, and I was a huge Astros fan. Uh, as far as player goes, I wouldn't say that there was like any one particular player growing up that I watched. I always, obviously, like I admired Craig Biggio because he was an Astro, and I thought he played the game really hard in the right way. The same thing with Derek Jeter. It was more of like, instead of having a particular player that I watched, I just respected guys that played hard and played the right way. Um, I mean, obviously, like Randy Johnson was a cool guy to watch. Mike Messina, uh, Roger Clemens, Roy Oswalt, all those guys. Like I grew up watching all of them, but there wasn't like a particular player that I had that was like a favorite player.
Yeah, people, they always ask me, they're like, who's your favorite player? I'm like, I just, I don't have a favorite player. Like, I can't choose like one player of my favorite team over the other. That's not
Yeah,
fair.
that's a very tough question to ask. Like that's a tough question to answer, just because it depends on what you're looking at.
Yeah. Do you have any pregame rituals?
Um, in pro ball, not particularly. In college, I actually used to be like very, very meticulous on what I did ritual wise pregame. Like I went to school in Louisiana, and there was a restaurant that served the best blackened alligator po' boys and bread pudding. So before every single start, if it was at home, every Thursday, I would go to that restaurant and I would get a blackened alligator po' boy with bread pudding. And if we were on the road, then I would go the last day that we were at home. But once I got to pro ball, it's very with the way that pro ball is, it's very difficult to have a specific routine all the way through, especially in the minor leagues. Just because me, for instance, I was a reliever, I was a starter, I did long relief, I did closing, like I did everything. So there were 2 seasons where I did both starting and relieving. So it's very difficult to have a very specific routine in situations like that. Um, but now I guess I would say like last year or this past season, on start days, I would wake up around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and go get a breakfast, like go to some diner somewhere that I hadn't been to, just because I like going to new spots. And I would get breakfast, go back to the hotel or wherever I was living at, and I would hang out in my room and watch whatever show I was watching at that time, and maybe play a little PlayStation. And then I'd get to the field generally around 3 to 4 hours before game time. I'd hang out for a bit, then I'd start doing my stretching, and then I'd go out onto the field. I'd do my plyos, my weighted ball throws, my bands, throwing, everything like that, and then get off the mound. But I guess that would kind of be the routine, I guess, that I had.
How much did not having a season last year affect you?
Um, I mean, I think it affected everybody a lot, or at least all the minor league guys quite a bit. I was fortunate enough to be able to. The Mets sent me to Australia to play. So even though I didn't have a season, I got to have like a mini season still, and I still got to play. And I know a lot of guys weren't as fortunate to get to do that and had to take the entire year off. But I guess that being said, one of the bright sides about not having a season was that I did get the opportunity to go and play in Australia, when that's, as a pitcher, that's winter leagues is tough to do, especially for a starting pitcher. And that it was always something in pro ball that I always wanted to do. So I guess that was one bright side of not playing, was I got an opportunity to go play in a different country and get to experience a different culture. And it was probably one of the best, not probably, it was the best winter of my life, just experience wise, and all the stuff I got to see and do, and the people I met. But as far as not playing it, yeah, I mean, when that's your job, it sucks to not be able to play.
How do you come back after a bad game?
Uh, um, I guess the life of, especially as a pitcher, the life of a baseball player is you have to have a very short memory. Obviously, when you have a bad outing, you don't want to forget it completely, because you want to learn from the mistakes that you made. But at the same time, you got to have a very short memory span, just because if you keep carrying bad outings over and over with you, it's very tough to get out of that rut. And I guess this past season was kind of a perfect example. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I struggled quite a bit. And instead of having that short memory span to where I just learn what I need to from it and then move on, I would carry it into the next outing and be like, okay, well, this is going to be the outing that I do better. This is going to be the outing I do better. And then every time you do that, you're going into that next outing with negative mindset. So I guess the easiest way is just learn from it, and then you forget about it and move on to the next one, because all that matters is your next outing anyways.
What's one thing you're working on this off season?
My, I guess three biggest goals are obviously to get stronger. I'd like to get a little bit stronger in my lower half, just to produce a little more force into the ground whenever I'm throwing, to maybe gain a couple miles an hour. And then another big part of that also is going to be the mobility. So I'm going to do the best I can this off season, and more so than I have in past off seasons, to gain a little bit more flexibility and mobility, just to stay healthy and get the most out of my delivery. And then from a throwing standpoint, I'm not really aiming to fix anything, just because I felt like at the end of the year, my stuff was where I wanted it to be at. Now it's just more of refining things, and maybe throwing things a little bit more first strike, being able to command things a little better. And then obviously, I think every pitcher's goal in the offseason is to gain a couple ticks of velo.
What was the biggest adjustment for you from AA to AAA?
The biggest adjustment would be, it's funny because I got asked this when I first got up to AAA, what the biggest difference was. And to be honest with you, the biggest difference between the two really is just mistakes get hit a lot harder. Uh, so adjustment wise, the biggest adjustment was just getting ahead in counts a lot more because, in the lower levels, if you fall behind in the count, if you have good enough stuff, it doesn't really matter. Like you'll be okay. But once you get to the AAA level and so on past that, you fall behind in counts. You can have as good a stuff as anybody, but it makes things very tough when you fall behind. And that was a big adjustment that I had to make because there were times where I fell behind and I'd make a great pitch, but it would still get hit hard. And that's just, I mean, that's the name of the game. I mean, hitters are good. So you can't fall behind and you can't leave stuff over the plate. But as far as like adjustments go, I would just say that like just staying ahead in counts, throwing strikes more, and getting guys out early as opposed to just trying to nitpick.
What's your go-to pitch and bases loaded 3-2 count, 2 outs?
Hmm. We go on a righty or a lefty at the plate?
Um, I guess lefty.
We want a lefty at the plate, 3-2 count. I'm either going with a fastball or a changeup. If my changeup's on that day, I'll probably go to the changeup. If it's a righty at the plate, my breaking ball's on that day and it's like a 3 or a 4 hole. There's a good chance I'll probably go fastball, but there's a good chance that I throw a breaking ball there.
What's your warm-up song and is there any meaning behind it?
My warm up song is Blue Notes by Meek Mill, and I wouldn't say there's any like meaning behind it. I just really like the song. I'm not really somebody like, I know there's guys that get hyped up about like when songs are playing and stuff, and when their walkouts are going and all that. But I've never really been somebody that like music gets me going. So I just tend to pick a song that I think people will like, and then I also like. And so I've done a lot of different genres. I mean, I've done country, I've done 60s, 70s, 80s. I've done rock and roll. I did rap this year, so I've done a little bit of everything. But I don't know. Next year we might do a little. I don't know, rap or maybe Jimmy Buffett. Who knows?
What's your favorite thing to do in the off season or on a day off?
Golf. I love to golf. That's in the off season I try to play 3 or 4 times a week, and then in season generally if I get an off day where I get a chance to go, I'll go play golf. I'm not that great, but I love to play.
I want to start playing. When I told people, they're like, "What? You play golf?" I'm like, "Why not?"
You don't have to be good to have fun. I mean, obviously if you are good, you have a lot more fun, but it's one of those things that you can play till you're 80, and it's when it's a nice day out, there's not a lot of things better than going out to a golf course and hanging out.
What's your favorite video game to play?
Uh ooh, there's 3 right now. My absolute all-time favorite game ever is probably called It's The Witcher. And that's if I'm playing by myself, it's The Witcher. That's my all-time favorite game. But I love Call of Duty and I love Apex also. And so when I'm playing with my college buddies and like some of my best friends, I either play Apex or Rocket League with them. But yeah, Call of Duty also. I love playing Warzone.
I played Call of Duty twice, never again.
Really?
Yeah.
I love it. It's a hard game, but once you get good at it, it's fun. I played for money a little bit last off season.
Um, what if you had to listen to one artist for the rest of your life, who would it be?
Oh, one artist for the rest of my life. I love Tyler Childers. He's probably right now. I think he might be the one. He's just got a great, just all around. I love his voice. I love his lyrics, everything. I'm more of a I'm more of a country music listener than anything. So I'd probably go with him.
I have one more question. Who do you want to win the World Series, and who do you think is going to win?
I mean, selfishly, I mean, I gotta like my whole family, aside from being obviously they're Mets fans because I'm with the Mets, but my family is born and raised in Houston, so I gotta go with the Astros. And I genuinely think if if their pitching holds out, I think the Astros will win it. But I
Yeah,
think it'll be a great series to watch.